It's the B&M Baked Podcast. We're here at Naugatuck Valley Community College for the 5th annual Brass City Comic Con. We're going to have tons of great interviews. Alex Simmons, Frank McLaughlin, who worked for DC Comics, a bunch of local artists. There might even be a free lunch comics appearance. Stay tuned for that. And so much more. So let's go check out the 5th annual Brass City Comic Con. We're back here at Brass City Comic Con with Frank McLaughlin. You've done many comics, as we can see, for over the years. How did you first start getting into drawing? What was your first thing that you were like, I really want to start doing that?
When I was a little kid, Christmas time, half of my gifts were clothes, and I hated it. But the best part of it was the shirts and stuff were backed with this kind of paper.
Yes.
And that was my drawing paper when I was a kid. Lay on the floor and draw Popeye or whatever it was from the thing. And it was a lot of fun. So we didn't mind wearing the shirt.
Yeah, way better than wearing a shirt. So you've drawn for Marvel, you've drawn for DC. What was it like in like that 68 time period when everyone was going from Marvel to DC? Was there like what was the big move about? Why was there such a big move?
Well, if you had a contract with, there's a couple of guys I know, had a contract with Marvel and got paid under their own name, they'd go work for DC and use a nom de plume.
Ah, there you go.
And to avoid problems with contracts. So that's what that was all about.
Ah, well, there you go. So you're working both sides. So you did the Justice League. What was that like when you first started doing Justice League? Did you think it would still be, all this time later, still be out there and still be as huge, and now they're even thinking of making a movie about it? I mean, it's still out there. It's crazy.
I worked with a terrific penciler, Dick Dillon, and it seemed like we worked on that forever, 20, 30 years maybe. And when he died, he was in the middle of penciling our next issue. And he got as far as page 3 when he died. His son sent me a couple of weeks ago a copy of the first page of that book, and it was terrific. It was a big monster, and all the JLA characters were attacking him. So he said, would you ink this 30 years later after my father's death?
Yeah.
I said, sure, and I did. And I was going to bring it today, but it was just too big. It's about this big. But he was a terrific artist and a really nice guy.
Yeah.
I worked with him for maybe 30 years at least.
Wow.
I never met him.
Oh, wow. That's
We talked on the phone once a week.
Yeah, never in person.
No, because I forget where he lived, New Jersey or Long Island or someplace. Now I'm in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I would bring the work in finished. He would bring it in pencil. So we just never got. Irv Noack, same thing. I did a lot of work with him. I never met him.
So what was it like seeing that art 30 years later from when you originally started doing it, and it just arrived? Yeah.
It's kind of freaky, isn't it? You know, when he sent it to me, I didn't know what to make of it. You know, but it was. He offered to buy it from me. Somebody else wanted to buy it, but I'll probably keep it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of stuff stolen
Yeah.
in a move, and I don't have any real pages left.
Yeah.
I've only got a few pages of other stuff. So.
Yeah. So I've noticed, and I'm going to ask you about it, Connecticut, I didn't know was such a hotbed for comic book artists and writers. Has it always been that case? Have you noticed, or is it just recently like started to pick up where there's a lot more people doing it?
No, all the old gag writers and illustrators live in the Westport area. I have a good friend, Orlando Bucino, who was one of the great gag artists back when the magazines were buying gags. And he's a great letterer, funny guy. And what happened was they would have a delivery guy come in to the restaurant in Westport that's right next to the railroad station. And he would take this stuff in, and all the cartoonists would have a party the whole, Wednesday afternoon. And they just seemed to gravitate toward Westport.
Wow. Wow, it's kind of crazy that everyone's around here in Connecticut. I didn't even know comic books were like made pretty much out of Connecticut. It's kind of crazy.
Well, it started out as bedroom towns in New York, Westport was closer.
Yeah.
Norwalk. So, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of cartoons.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the time. It was an honor to get to talk to you for a couple minutes. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much. And we'll be back with more here in the B&M Baked Podcast. It's the B&M Baked Podcast. We're here with Nick Palazzo, artist. Tell us a little about how you got into comic book artists.
Essentially comic books, Batman, Aquaman, all those guys, and old like school monster movies like The Wolfman and all that stuff kind of fueled me into doing all this.
Cool. So what stuff do you got? I see you got Flash and all these other ones going on underneath here. Do you have your own book that you do or anything, or are you working for other people? How does that?
I do mostly freelance stuff for like other people, and I do have my own little thing. This guy.
Okay.
It's a little webcomic that updates when I feel like it for the most part right now. But
So people can't see the card, but it's
Yeah.
Welcome to Brimstone. Tell us a bit about Welcome to Brimstone, how that got started.
it's really just a little semi-horror comic. It's not really horror, I guess, but it has horror monsters in it, and they kind of just their daily activities and politics sometimes, and just weird stuff.
All right, so that's just at welcometobrimstone.com?
It's not WordPress.com now
Okay.
because, I don't know, I forgot to do the URL.
All right, cool. So check it out. Welcome to Brimstone. It's online. You can check it out anytime you want.
Yeah.
It's B&M Baked Podcast. We'll be back with more right after this. We're back here at Brass City Comic Con with Kyle from Decimated Designs. So we were sitting over our tables over there, and I could see the big zombie head from Zombie Charge all the way over there, so we had to come over.
Really miss it, I don't think.
No, I think it's some space. The space station called, and they could see it. Decimated Designs. Tell us what about that. How did Decimated Designs get started?
So Decimated Design started as a haunted house design and Halloween. We've since done feature films. We've shipped headdresses out to Vegas, and now we're doing conventions. We just started this past year, and we're doing. We're here at Brass City Comic Con, having a fun time. We just did Hartford Comic Con, and we're going to head down to Walker Stalker pretty soon, which will be a blast.
Yes, Walker Stalker. That's in Providence, right? Boston area. Down there?
It's actually coming. They just
Worcester.
They just had Boston-ish.
I see it somewhere. Yeah.
They just had Boston-ish,
Yeah.
and now they're going to do New York.
Ah.
We're excited about the New York.
Wow, that's pretty big. That's pretty big. So how did you get involved in makeup and all that? How did you first start?
I went to school for technical design, theater, and they didn't have anybody. You know, there's a lot of blood in Shakespeare, but nobody says that.
Yeah.
So, they knew that I was doing the haunted house stuff, so they said, hey, could you make us some prosthetic heads and stuff? I'm like, okay. And then it just sort of blew up from there, and it started getting bigger and bigger, and I started doing the makeup conventions and training seminars and that sort of thing. And, a lot of it is you have to have a passion. If you don't have the passion for it, get out of the game.
And so with the advent of zombies, of course, being so huge as it has been lately, that must have tripled up everything.
Oh yeah. Oh, zombies are huge right now, and that's primarily what I'm doing at the conventions. Even we just did Philly Comic-Con, and they had half the cast of Walking Dead there, and everyone wanted their picture with the cast member as them as a zombie. It's like, oh, well, how are you going to bite Daryl if you're a zombie? He's going to kill you before you even get close. Yeah. But all right, you get the picture. We'll,
I actually pay for it. I don't care what you do with it.
Exactly. As long as you get the picture, tag me in it. That'll be fun because I love seeing pictures of my work out there.
That's cool. So, as you said, you're going to be at all these other cons, but is there any other places like locally that people can see in the Connecticut area that you guys got stuff at that they could check out?
Well, we do the zombie runs. We do we do zombie charge. We just did the official Walking Dead zombie run. Let me think. Where else are we going to be? Oh, in October, Haunted House season. We do the only Scream in town at the only game in town in North Haven. That'll be a lot of fun. There's going to be some really scary stuff there this year. Some serious gore, some freaky stuff. I can't give you everything, but I can tell you there's going to be some magic involved, maybe some boardwalk, some sideshow kind of stuff.
Very interesting. So stay tuned for that. But is there a website people can go to get this information at that they could check out?
Yes, absolutely. DecimatedDesigns.com, and you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere at Get Decimated. So just search Get Decimated and you'll find us.
There you go. So Decimated Designs here at the Brass City Comic-Con. And we're back here at Brass City Comic-Con with the guys from Zombie Leader. Todd is here, freshly zombified. Tell us a bit about Zombie Leader and what it's all about.
I started Zombie Leader last September. I've always been an avid comic book collector. I've always loved art, and my parents were antique dealers. So I was trying to think of a fun way to run a business. So I started up Zombie Leader. I sell T-shirts that I've designed myself and print locally. I've had autograph appearances. I had Addie Miller from The Walking Dead at an event last year, had some lithographs designed. So we're just having a lot of fun, and I also had, our motto is good deeds one bite at a time. So we also give 10% of our profits to either local or national charities.
Oh, that's awesome. So anything else, Zombie Leader? Are you going out anywhere else that Zombie Leader is coming up soon? People can keep an eye out for it?
Yeah, we're going to be with Decimated Designs. We're going to be at Comic-Con next month, August 15th to the 17th. It's going to be in Bridgeport. Bridgeport is my hometown. So we're gonna blow up Bridgeport. I'm actually organizing a Black Rock comic crawl on August 15th through the bars, restaurants, businesses of Black Rock. I got Echo Endless, the cosplayer. She does a lot of She-Hulk work. She's going to come down. She's actually going to be singing for a half an hour down at the Walrus and Carpenter, which is one of the local bars. We're going to have a cosplay contest. JC Cosplay says she's going to come by. I'm trying to get vendors and also some of the talent and artists from the show are going to come down. It's just going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun. After that, we are planning on doing Walker Stalker, New York, New Jersey in December. And also, I just remembered, I'm going to be doing Granite State Con up in New Hampshire. That will be mid-September. I forgot the date off the top of my head.
All right, cool. So if anyone wants any information about that, is there a website someone can go check out or anything?
Absolutely. Zombieleader.com is your first stop. We also are on Facebook, Zombie Leader. We're on Twitter, at Zombie Leader 1, Instagram, The Zombie Leader. There's a pub, the bar crawl is listed up there, Black Rock Comic Crawl. And I also do a charity eBay fundraiser for the Leukemia Society. It's called Call Auction, and I've raised about $3,000 for the Leukemia Society through comic art.
Wow, that's awesome. So check all that stuff out, and you could be zombified anytime you want. And we're back here at the Brass City Comic Con with the one and only Alex Simmons, scribe, author, writer, all different words for the same thing.
All of those things.
So you do the Archie comics, and you also do Blackjack. So tell us, of course, the big Archie thing going on now. I know you've been asked 9,000 times. I know. You're the one guy from Connecticut who didn't.
I wasn't home. I wasn't there. Those aren't my friends. Every convention I go to, at least 5 people say, "You're killing off Archie." No, I'm not. Why? What's it going to be the black guy, right? Yeah. No, the Archie series, there are 3 different Archie series.
Yes.
There's the classic Archie, the typical, this one, okay, right? Right. This is Archie, Riverdale.
The supermarket.
Everybody's fun and happy, and that's the usual kind of, joy and rapture.
Yeah.
Then there's the Archie, Life with Archie, which was generated out of Archie marries Betty, Archie marries Veronica phenomena, which was like, 5 years ago, 2010, around that time period. And so what they did was, because the graphic novel series there was so popular, they created a publication, Life with Archie, which is magazine size. And it's the kids after they've graduated from college and they're living their lives as young adults. In that series, Archie's going to be killed.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I think it comes out this month.
Yes, it came out, I think, Wednesday,
Right,
actually.
Okay, right, there you go.
Yeah.
Then there's the Archie, Afterlife with Archie. So you either have classic, fun, silly Archie all grown up and dead, or Archie about to be eaten. Just take your pick,
Yeah.
But, it's the same thing they do in the comic book industry anyway. Batman,
Yes.
how many times has he died? Superman's
Yeah.
died, Dr. Doom has been...
Everybody. I think everyone dies at least
Everyone
once.
dies,
It's
he
like
comes
it's
back.
like a soap opera.
It's a disease, I think it is. Death and rebirth,
Evil twins.
But, again, for anybody who loves the Archie comics, you've got a little bit of everything you can choose. Pick and choose. But I didn't kill him.
No, it wasn't you. You were the one guy
It
from...
wasn't even my idea.
Yeah, you're the one guy who didn't.
I'm the one. I'm innocent. Get me Matlock.
So, with Archie, how long have you been writing for the Archie comic book?
Since 2007. I went in to get try and get a freelance gig, 1 or 2, something like that. And I wound up getting along with Mike Pellerito and Victor Gorlick, who's I think, the oldest working editor in the comic book industry. He'd been with the company, I think he's been with it now over 50 years of editing Archie. You ask Victor, you pull up an old piece of artwork from 1962, no names, and Victor will go, "Oh, so-and-so did that and was done at such and such a time, and I remember his dog's name was." So Victor's got it all in there. He's a great guy. But anyway, we got along, and I started doing some stories for them. The first one was Archie's World Tour. They let me take the kids out of Riverdale, jaunting through the world. I think they went to 5 countries in 10 days with spies chasing them and everything, and I had a good time with that. And a lot of what they were letting me do was also bring in more diversity to the series. So in World Tour, I created some new characters for that. What is it? I love bending back like this.
That's fine.
Okay. And they asked me, this is Chuck Clayton, and this is a character they created in the 70s. And he's popped up now and then throughout the years with his girlfriend Nancy, because they were the black couple in Riverdale. But Mike said to me at a certain point, says, we'd love to have a couple of full-blown stories about Chuck, something that really talks about what he does, what he's into, his family. And they knew that I teach comics to kids. They said, "So could you come up with something where Chuck does that?" I said, "Could I come up with something? Are you kidding?" Yeah, I've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I got to do 4 really cool stories. They were originally sold as individual issues. Now they're in this nice little trade paperback, and that's great. And then again, speaking about diversity and bringing that into, they let me do a 6-part miniseries called Clash of the New Kids. And this is introducing a whole new string of supporting characters to the Riverdale High. So you've got 50 new students that have been added, as well as 6 or 7 new teachers, different backgrounds, ethnicities, cultures, and so forth. And this was a fun thing to do. Fernando Ruiz, one of the artists, and Dan Parent, the other artist, we all created certain characters. So I think I got 3 or 4 of them of mine, 2 or 3 or 4 of theirs. It's really great. But this has been, that fun of mixing up Riverdale and, as John Goldwater likes to say, really reflecting the world more through a series that is that iconic. And,
exactly,
and it's, accessible and should be welcoming to anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with all the schools combining all over the places and everything. New kids coming in. It's good. It's great to have that out there. So not only do you have the Archie, but you have Blackjack.
Right, okay. Okay,
So if people who don't know who Blackjack is, I don't know who that would be.
Blackjack is an African-American soldier of fortune in the 1930s. I'm not that old, but I grew up watching on television a lot of the old serials and pulp stories and like that, and reading Doc Savage and The Shadow. And I really enjoyed that era and the high adventure, the unknown factors. Those were really cool, except that 99% of the time, representations of people of color were really not cool.
Yeah.
Black characters were normally either the porter, butler, or step and fetch it. If you went to certain foreign countries, even China, which was our ally during World War II, there was a lot of misrepresentation there, caricatures and stereotypes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do a series that had, again, that globe-trotting adventure theme, but I also wanted to represent people more, and I wanted to see someone like me as the hero. So I did some research. I knew there were black explorers and soldiers and so forth. So I came up with Aaron Day, who's the son of a man who was a mercenary. Early 1900s, might have known Teddy Roosevelt and that sort of thing. Aaron wants to be like his dad. Dad goes out, and he fights, and he's strong, and he comes back, the warrior. So Aaron grows up to follow in those footsteps. But his mother was also a woman who, like many black women of that era, learned to read from reading the Bible or that kind of. So she taught her kids to read. And then she insisted that their father take them on these globetrotting, I won't say adventures to the point of where they don't go into the battle zone.
No.
But if he's off in the jungle somewhere or in the mountains somewhere fighting, they're in a village or a town or a city somewhere else waiting for him to come back. Because she wanted the family to be closer than him being away for 2 or 3 years at a time. So Aaron and his sister were exposed to these different cultures, and they realized that there's cause and effect. Whereas Aaron's father is, you pay me, I go do what I have to do. Aaron is now realizing there are things I will and won't do for the money, and I have to determine where my father ends and where I begin. So again, what I feel is a strong adventure story, but it's also a story about people, about character development, about identity. So I've done the comic books. I did the first one where they go to the Middle East, and then I did Blackjack, Blood and Honor, where he's hired to bodyguard a Japanese dignitary who's been marked for assassination because he's speaking out against Japan's invasion of China and its movement towards World War II. And in real life, many philosophers and poets and politicians in Japan who did speak out were sanctioned, disappeared, died mysteriously. So I took some of real life history and applied it to the story. So Aaron's taken that role, but then again, to talk about character development, Aaron's father was bigoted. He didn't trust Asians. He didn't trust a lot of those people. Funny coming from a black man, but hey, we are like that too.
Yeah.
So Aaron wants to find out, is that in him? And if so, will he still do the job? Or is he different from his father? So it's another reason he took on the assignment.
Yeah.
So again, you have character development and story behind the guns and the things blowing up and stuff like that.
Yeah, it sounds like a really in-depth, like, father-son story kind of thing, which is like, am I going to be my father? A lot of kids growing up have that, boys, sons growing up to be, am I going to be my dad?
Exactly.
My dad's alcoholic, because I'm going to be an alcoholic, that kind of thing.
We all have to sort of define who we are. I do a lot of work with kids and teens, and the quest to identify who you are and how you fit in the world, that comes with anybody. But if you have adverse circumstances to deal with, like you said, an alcoholism or some other kind of abuse, or absentee parents or whatever, or parents who just don't know how to be parents.
Yeah.
Maybe they started out too young. Either way,
seems to be a big thing in this generation.
Yeah. Either way, you as a child growing up have to figure out, who are you?
Yeah.
What's your identity? And hopefully find the best of yourself and move forward with that. I've worked with kids whose parents have told them the kids will never amount to anything.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Mike, they don't know that. I said, no disrespect to your parents, but no one really knows what you can do. We can only look at potential. So let's start there. That's my job when I work with kids, is to get them to believe in the possibilities. And that as they imagine possibilities, there are ways of investigating, exploring, getting information that might help you reach that. That's what I like to do when I work with kids.
Now, since you're starting to talk about working with kids, how did you first start doing that? Where do you do it at a certain? Do you have like a group or something you work with? Or
well, yes, and I have an eclectic career. I was an actor for a number of years, and I did a lot of theater, television. I did background work or in films and things like that. I was in a Muppet movie. I was in Ghostbusters. I'm running in the crowd through Columbus Circle. But
30 years ago this year.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's how
Makes me feel old.
This is good. This is real. But in doing theater, one of the things I did a lot of children's theater, and I noticed some of the actors I worked with would say, "Oh, it's a kiddie audience. We don't have to go full out."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why would you think that?
Yeah.
For one, you don't cheat your audience. Two, kids are not like adults where they've been taught absolutely, well, you must be polite. No. Kids start talking during the performance, it means you lost them.
Yeah.
So to me, it was always important to give a kid 100% of whatever I was doing. Then as I started to realize that my imagination and my mother's respect for it and letting me, play with toys and act out things and write and draw stories, all of that stuff really helped fuel who I became. And then I started to meet some kids who were curious about that or who were in situations where no, their parents didn't allow them to do that, or they were afraid their peers would make fun of them. So I started creating like little theater workshops. And from the theater workshops, I began to see the potential for using theater or the creative arts to get kids to explore not only their life, but also academics. If you want to write a play, but you can't write very well and you don't read very well, you're stuck.
Yeah.
So using your desire to write a play, I improve on your writing skills and your reading skills. I also have you in the play. I improve on your communication skills. You build self-confidence. You realize not only can you present yourself in front of people, but hey, you help create this thing from nothing. Now, what does that say about you as a person?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how it started years ago. Not too many years ago. It was about 1998, 99. Comic book industry started moving away from kids with the material. A lot of very quote-unquote mature material. To me it was racy or extremely violent or vulgar or whatever. And that's fine. Adults have their right to that material, but you don't need to take everything away from the younger audience so that you can have that. But they were. So I started trying to get some of the comic book conventions to do just a little section, a kids section.
Yeah.
Many of them wouldn't. A couple of them let me create one. One of them held on to it and continues to do it to this day. The other one said, no, we could get money to have so-and-so here or whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay, fine. So in 2006, I met a director of educational outreach at Bronx Community College. His name is Eugene Adams. We got to talking. He knew I taught workshops showing kids how to use comics and things like that and how to create their own. So he tied me in with some of the work that they were doing at the college. Pardon me. Then he said, what else would you like to do? I said, well, I've always wanted to do sort of a conference or a seminar where high school and college age kids could see that this is a business as well as a creative experience, and it might be a career goal for them. So I would get some people to come in who are in the business and then get an audience. He said, okay, let's do that. So we did that. The school thought, well, you'll have maybe 10, 15 kids there.
Yeah.
We had 6 writers and illustrators, pardon me again, 6 writers and illustrators who came to speak. They put us in a small room. We had over 150 people in the room.
Wow.
Standing room only. Teachers were in there going, what's going on here? They're lined up against the wall, and the kids didn't want to leave. Some of them were missing class and so forth, but they were getting this information for the first time. So that was successful. So then Mr. Adams said to me, okay, what do you want to do next? He hadn't learned, never asked me that question. So I said, well, look, I've always wanted to have a comic book convention that was all ages, either just for kids or all ages. He says, well, what would that entail? So I told him, he said, well, let's do it. So on the campus in 2007, we did our first Kids Comic-Con. It was initially just to show it could be done on almost no money, right? I invited a few of my friends. I thought we'll have maybe 50, 70 people from the community. It'll be nice. The word got out. We had 45 artists, writers, editors, and people come from the professional end to talk to kids and people. We had some vendors there as well. The word continued to get out. The day of the event was a one-day event. We had almost 900 people show up on the campus. And that was when people began to realize, wait a minute, this is really something.
Kids like comic books.
This is real.
Who would have thought?
This can happen. Right. Yeah. How'd that happen, right? And so, as a matter of fact, Jay Williams, who was working for Reed Exhibition at that time and running their convention, said that our Kids Comic-Con was the model, should have been the model for their Kids Day event. And so the following year, myself, and he pulled in about 5 other people from different aspects of the comic industry to help them guide and build that model for Reed. So
Wow.
we've been doing Kids Comic-Con every year since. We've also have a mini version which we call the KCC Roadshow, which has gone as far north as Buffalo and as far south as Miami.
All right.
And then we also went to Africa. We went to
Wow.
Senegal, and we were there for 10, 12 days.
Wow, that's amazing. So if anyone wants to get any information about yourself or these cons that you're doing, where can they look that up? Is there a website or something they could go check out?
Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Alexander Simmons. We have a Kids Comic-Con page there. We have a Blackjack page there, so Blackjack Adventures, so they can go there. That's Facebook. Then there's a Blackjack Adventures website, and there's a Kids Comic-Con website. So either of those areas they can go to for updates on what we're doing, where we're doing it. Send me questions. You can send it to alex@kidscomiccon.com, and I'll get the emails.
Awesome. Well, it's great to meet you. I got to say, it was an awesome
Thank you.
interview. Thank you very much. I'll be back with more here on the B&M Baked Podcast in just a bit.